Hello guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. Now in the previous video, we finished up creating the components for the home screen. We then moved on to defining a new screen. Now in that screen, we created only the structure. Now in this video, we're going to add to that structure components that are going to allow us to capture user data that we will then validate before saving it to the database. In the next video, we're going to be creating a new screen, a screen that is going to allow a user to interact with the data or with the tasks that they have added in the application. Now, if you like this kind of content, be sure to subscribe to my channel, turn your notifications on so that you'll be notified when I upload a new video. And with that out of the way, let's get started. Alright guys, so in the previous video, we did set the CreateTask screen as our default screen so that we can work exclusively from this screen. And then inside this screen, we did create a layout. Inside this layout is where we're going to split the inputs into the specific data that we expect to receive. So like we said in the first T card, we are going to receive task identity data, that is the title and the description. And then in the second T card, we're going to receive time specific data, that is the start date, start time, and end time. And then for the last T card, you're going to receive category specific data. So we are going to start with the first T card. So to be able to capture task identity data, we are going to be using text field. And we're not going to be using the default text field, but rather we are going to be using a custom MD text field for that case so that it matches up with the color scheme that we got going on with the application. Later on, we will want to be able to programmatically set some of the attributes of this custom text field. So to do that, we're going to switch to the templates.py file, and then we're going to define the same class inside the components.kv file where we're going to set the default attributes we want. So let's do that. Then under the components comment is where I'm going to define that class. So I'll give it a class of custom text field, which inherits from the MD text field, right? And then for now, because we don't have any attributes inside the .py file that we want to set, we're going to be using the pass statement instead. And then I'll switch to the components.kv file where we are going to define the same class and set the custom attributes. To do that, I'm going to say C, and then I'm just going to paste in the custom attributes we want for this C text field class. Okay, and then I'll explain each line of code. So basically, the text color focus is the color of the text when this C text field is going to receive a focus. And then when the focus is out of this C text field, we want to set the color of the text to BG2. And then for the line color, when there is no focus, we want to set that to BG3. And then when there is focus, we want to set it to TXT2. And then for the hint text, when there is no focus, we want to set it to TXT3. And then when there is focus, we want to set it to TXT2. And then the error color is the color of the text when the error attribute of the C text field is going to be set to true. We're going to be setting the error attribute of this C text field from the .py file. That's why we have defined a class inside the templates.py file instead of using this style of inheritance. Okay, so switching to the kvlang file, we want to be able to have two text fields. For each text field, we will add a label to identify specifically what this text field is for. So to do that, I'll create an LB, give it a text value of we want the title, and then inside this we are going to nest a C text field, and then apart from that we're going to create another LB, give it a text of description. Okay, and then apart from that, you're going to nest another C text field that is going to actually receive the description of that specific task. But you'll notice that our widgets are nested, are stacked horizontally. To fix that, because for all our T cards, we will want all the nested widgets to be stacked vertically, we're going to switch to the components.kv file, and then where we defined the T card, we are going to set the orientation for all our T cards to vertical. Okay, and just like that, we have the title and then we have the description. Next, we're going to switch to the second T card. In this T card is where we're going to get time specific data of a task. So to do that, the first thing I'm going to add is an LB. This LB is going to basically represent the title for this T card. So I'll just say time details. Okay, or we can say date time details, date stroke time details, right? Inside this label, we are going to have a section where we are going to nest an ITBTN. And if you can remember in the previous video, the ITBTN basically inherits from the MD field round flat icon button. right? So we will want to be able to have an ITBTN, that when a user clicks on that ITBTN is going to open the MDDatePicker dialog, then where the user can then be able to select the time, right? So to do that, what we are going to do, we are going to nest the entirety of this date section inside a layout. We're going to be using an MD box layout for this. And then inside this box layout, we are going to have two layouts. We're going to have a first MD relative layout and another MD relative layout. Now, so let me explain basically what each layout is for. So the first MD relative layout is going to hold that custom ITBTN. And then the second relative layout is going to hold a checkbox which when a user clicks on that is going to set the start date of a task to today, okay? That way the user doesn't have to open the MDDatePicker dialog just to set the start date to today. I chose this approach just for efficiency. So to do that, we're going to first nest an MD, we're going to nest an ITBTN. But for all the ITBTNs that you're going to be using inside the CreateTask screen are going to have same but different attributes from the one we have set with the ITBTN. So to ensure that we don't repeat ourselves, upholding the dry principle in Python, what you're going to do, we're going to create a new class, custom ITBTN. Okay, and this ITBTN is going to inherit from ITBTN itself, so that apart from all the default attributes set for MD field round flat icon button, we can have the theme text color and theme icon color set to custom. And then for all these custom ITBTNs that we are going to have inside the CreateTask screen, we want to have their MD BG color set to BG2, and then for all the text colors and icon colors, we want to set that to BG1 because BG2 and BG1 complement each other nicely. And then I'll switch back to the KVLang file, and then in here, instead of IBTN, we're going to be using CITBTN. And then for the CITBTN or the custom ITBTN that is going to open the MDDatePicker, we're going to set its icon to plus. And then for text, I'm going to set that to start date. And there we have it. And then in this second relative layout is where we're going to have a label and a checkbox. So to add those two widgets, we are going to start with the LB. You can start with any, it's inconsequential because later on we're going to set different position hints for the two widgets. And then for this, I will give it a text of today. All right. And then inside here, we're going to nest an MD checkbox widget. But at the moment, you'll notice that the checkbox occupies quite a large space. So to fix that, you're going to set its size hint both for the X and Y to none so that we can manually set the size of this checkbox. And then I'm going to give it a size. A size is a tuple, so I'll give it 30 for X and 30 for Y, just like that. Okay, but you'll notice that the LB and the checkbox are overlapping each other. So to fix that, you're going to set its position hint. We're going to set the right to 1, and then we also want to suspend it within the y-axis. I'll say center, y, set that to 0.5. Also, we want to suspend this label and this CBTN within the y-axis because later on we're going to manually set the height of this containing box layout because at the moment it's occupying the entirety of the T-card space. So to do that, I'll set the position hint for this, set that position hint for this. I'll set center, y to 0.5. And then we will do the same for the CBTN. Now this is possible because we have nested each widget inside an MD relative layout. But to ensure that this box layout occupies just a small space enough to render the nested widgets, we are going to deactivate its size hint Y by setting it to none and then manually setting its height to DP50. So 50, I think it's okay for that. And there we have it, guys. So when a user clicks on this, they will be setting the start date for a specific task to today. All right, and then finally we are going to change the icon of this MD checkbox. So to do that, we're going to be changing the value for the checkbox icon normal and the checkbox icon down. So for both the checkbox icon normal and checkbox icon down, we are going to be using the same value. Now that we're done with that, you'll notice that when a user selects a specific start date, we want to be able to show the user exactly what start date they have selected. So we are going to store that information inside an LB, okay? And then inside this LB, we are going to give it a placeholder of start date so that when a user selects a specific date, later on, we are going to replace this start date with that specific date that a user has selected. Next, we are going to have CreateTask. Okay, this is going to allow the user to add the start time of a specific task. So I'll set its icon to plus again, but for text, we're going to be using a different text. We're going to set that to start time. And then once they select that time, we want the user to be able to see the actual time that I have selected. So we're going to store the value of the selected time inside another LB, and then we're going to give it a placeholder for start time. Okay, and then after selecting the start time, we want the user to be able to select the end date of a specific task. So to do that, we're going to use another CreateTask, and then for this, we're going to be using the same icon plus, but for the text, we're going to set that to end time. And then when a user clicks on this, we're going to open another instance of MDTimePicker. And then once as time is selected, we are going to store the selected time inside this LB, which for now we're going to give it a placeholder of end time. Okay, and just like that, we're done with the second card. We can add some spacing inside this card. So I'll give it a spacing of maybe DP 10. We can increase that to maybe DP 15, and then instead of setting the height to 400, we can reduce that to maybe 330, just enough height to comfortably nest all the widgets that we've added. I think that is okay. And then finally, we're going to switch to the final T card. Now we said that this T card is going to hold category specific information. So to do that, we're going to be using a CreateBTN. Okay, and then this CreateBTN is going to have a different icon. We're going to be using an arrow right for this, okay, to represent a drop down. And then for text, we are going to be setting that to category, and then by default all the tasks are going to have a specific category. So instead of category, we are going to set that to the first category, which personal. That is going to be the default category for all the tasks added. But instead of arrow right, let's use chevron right. I think chevron right best represents a drop down. But at the moment, you'll notice that this CBTN is rendered at the bottom of the T card, but I want it to be rendered at the center of the T card. But remember, to be able to control the position of a nested widget inside the box layout vertically, you first have to set the orientation to horizontal. That way you can be able to control the position of the nested widget vertically, but you cannot be able to control the position of that nested widget horizontally. Now that we have set the orientation to horizontal, we can be able to set the position hint of this specific ITBTN to 0.5. That way we can have the CITBTN nested at the center of the T card. Now that we have finished setting up everything, I'm just going to change the color of all the LBs that we have inside the CreateTask screen. At the moment, they are all black, but I want them to have a color of BG2. And then finally, we want to be able to differentiate the label for a title within a specific T card and the rest of the labels defined inside a T card. So to do that, we're going to change the font size of all the labels inside the second T card to SP12, except the label that holds the title to that specific T card. And there we have it, guys. We have created most of the components that are going to allow us to capture task-specific data from the user. Now, in the next video, we are going to be adding the MDDatePicker, the MDTimePicker, and the MDDropDownMenu that are going to allow the user to be able to set the start date, start time, end time, and category of a specific task. So if you have any questions or thoughts, be sure to leave them in the comment section below. If you found this video useful, leave a like and I'll see you in the next. Bye.